Hello, everybody. It's Sunday night. The name of the show is Intuitive Inc., and I am Servet Hassan. Again, I have a pre-recorded show. I'm not live tonight, so please don't call in because I'm traveling. But I do have exceptional shows when I do this because I get a hold of people that I can't normally get live because they're either traveling or they're in another country, as is my author today, Noa Belling. She's calling in from South Africa, and I'm so happy to have her. She has written a really great book, The Mindful Body. Build emotional strength and manage stress with body mindfulness. And you know I'm all into mindfulness, so we're going to really get into this. Noa also holds a master's degree in somatic, and that's also body-mind psychology through Noa University. And for those of you that don't know out there, it's the birthplace of modern mindfulness movement. I'm going to have to learn to talk. Modern mindfulness movement. There you go. Say that 5 times fast. Her background includes over a decade of teaching applied somatic psychology skills as well as running a private psychotherapy practice. But she's also a really great author. She's a best-selling author of the Yoga Handbook, Yoga, a Union of Mind and Body, and Yoga for Ideal Weight and Shape. Who couldn't use that? But we'll have to have her back on that subject because today we are going to talk about her latest book that just came out, The Mindful Body. Again, Noa Belling, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Great. So wonderful to be here. I'm well, thank you. And yourself?
Thank you. I'm well. I am. And this is an exceptionally good book for me. I read it. I loved it. I've written 3 books for Llewellyn myself, but also the last one that I contributed to that for them was called Llewellyn's Complete Book of Mindful Living, and I wrote 2 chapters in that along with some other really great authors, Michael Beckwith's in there, Jack Canfield, Thomas More. I was really happy to be included in that, and so I've been studying mindfulness for a long time. I'm not pitching my book, I'm pitching yours really, but I really I have studied mindfulness. So I really appreciate that. The other thing too is that for the people out there that know me, I'm recovering. I'm a cancer survivor so far. Knock wood. So I'm banging my head right now. I'm knocking.
Well done.
There, I'm banging my head. So, and I do attribute a lot of that to the mindfulness that I incorporated into my recovery. So we're going to talk about all of that. But welcome and thank you. And you are calling from South Africa, correct?
Mm-hmm. That is correct. From Cape Town, beautiful Cape Town in South Africa.
Good. And it's late there. So I appreciate it. And I'm so glad I got you on the phone. So thank you so much for being on my show. Yep.
Absolute pleasure. And just to say, clearly, I'm in very good company with the likes of yourself. So I really appreciate all the work that you're doing and keep up the wonderful work. And thank you for having me here.
You're very welcome. So let's talk about this body mindfulness because, well, first of all, tell me your story. Why did you decide to write this book? Because your other books are on yoga, which also incorporate mindfulness, but this is a whole different take on the subject.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I started off as a dancer. A ballet dancer was my first passion since I was 4 years old, turned into my first career. I danced until about the age of 24, at which time I wanted to incorporate what I thought was my invention of movement as therapy to a bigger context, to the world of psychology. So there I am, a dancer. All of my growing up, my youth, my teenage years, I found dancing extremely therapeutic. It was the way that I held myself together. It was the way I lifted my spirits, and I wanted to be able to know more of what is going on and how can this be shared, which led me on a journey through various mindfulness practices, yoga, few forms of meditation, and then to Noa University. And this was the beginning of my absolute discovery and delight in the way that we can apply mindfulness in such a sweet and beautiful way through body awareness. Body awareness, whether you're a dancer, whether you're a sports person, Whether you love yoga or you like going for your walks in nature, the body is such an obvious, easy way for us to access a clearer state of mind. When you're struggling with something, you might go for a walk, and it tends to clear your head. And so there's this way that, for me, this innate ability of body awareness, of living in our bodies, to help us mentally has always been so very alive and real for me. And in studying a master's degree and then being able to teach for over a decade applied somatic psychology skills to hundreds of students, and just see their way that they really integrated this and benefited, has, as well as working in many other contexts in private practice and in the corporate world, I was geared up to write this book. I thought everyone needs to know these skills. There's some real simple ways that we can be aware of ourselves. Some of these wonderful benefits that mindfulness gives us that also can be achieved in quite simple ways, dare I say, because it's not always so simple to remember to do it, but in quite simple ways that are really effective.
Right, exactly. And, I noticed in the beginning of your book, you had the forwards written by one of your professors at Naropa, and then you also gave credit to your mother, too, for standing by you and helping you with your dance, and then later with this, too, which is lovely, I think.
We don't exist in a vacuum. We absolutely are supported, helped along by so many people along the way.
Right.
And I definitely acknowledge all of those influences in ability to come to write this eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't think there are any accidents in life. And so I think that the dance really brought you forward into the whole mindfulness movement anyway. And it like you said, they both feed off of each other. And I do think that there's a lot to be said about being mindful and the therapeutic movements and the yoga and then the mindfulness, and it all kind of sent you in this one direction to have you do the best work you can do. And I think this book is brilliant. I do. I loved it. I have to say it's very well done.
Thank you.
It's very well done, and I also like how you've incorporated exercises, little mindfulness. There's a white light meditation. We'll talk about that. And also I did one for stress too, because you suggested in the mindfulness for stress. I did it this morning. You suggested that you put your thumb in your palm and you close your fingers over it when you feel like you're going to flip your lid.
Yes.
And I actually did that. I actually did that this morning because I read the book over the week. I didn't read it all today. So but I remembered that and I went, okay, I was really upset about something and I can't even remember. It was somebody outside who was driving me nuts. And I did that and it helped. So, I like the whole idea. But let's talk about mindfulness. Now, I have to say, I just watched a show. It's very current and trendy because it's called Being Serena. It's Serena Williams, the famous tennis player who everybody knows. She just had a baby. And she's doing a special on HBO or something. And I haven't been watching the whole thing, but I happened to tune in just really quickly. And I thought, I just want to see what she's doing. And she was talking about how she was having her baby. And she was going to have a C-section. And she was begging the doctors for a CT scan. And they weren't up for that. She said, I just know. And then she said something to him and I never forgot. I heard these words and I made a mental note of it. She said, I know my body better than anybody. I've trained myself to be mindful of my body because she's such an extraordinary athlete. And because of that, they did the CT scan and they found the pulmonary embolism. So, she's a shining example of what you're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you are an athlete, when you know your body so well, to be able to take your attention and place it in your body and trust in that is easier to do perhaps than those who do not have such a degree of heightened body awareness. I absolutely get that. And really the offering in the Mindful Body is to guide people to be able to do that a little more, to be able to quiet down our thoughts about what's going on, our worries about what's going on, so we can, in a sense, more quietly listen to what our bodies are telling us. And there's a lot of information in there that we might miss if we're constantly living in our heads and trying to interpret what's going on through our thoughts and assumptions, rather than feeling into, some call it our felt sense about what's going on from what our bodies are telling us. I think that's a wonderful example.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So now for the person who's not Serena, who's not this incredible,
Yes.
like one of the world's greatest athletes ever, just for us ordinary folk, how do we incorporate that? I mean, she just knows how to do that because that's her life. But what example would you give for people to touch base? Because really it's all about the body having a mind of its own, really. And how can the ordinary person do more of that?
So I usually start off talks with a little exercise, and I'm going to invite listeners to do it along with us, and invite you also to do it along with. It's going to take just a few seconds or a minute or so. The first is and this is all about touching base with our bodies. Often we think, people say, oh, get out of your head, get into your body. And you might say, well, I want to, but what are you talking about? Where is my body? I live in a body. What is this? Right. So this is one little exercise. And it is using touch, as we do in the chapter 1 of the Mindful Body, strategically placed there because it's one of the easiest ways to tune in to your body. So let's take your hands and place them on the top of your head wherever they feel comfortable. Just doing it for a few moments. Okay. The pressure can be just right, not too firm, not too light, whatever feels good. And just take a breath or let your breathing be natural. And then move your hands over your heart, so you're touching in your chest area. Again, a nice breath. Let yourself really notice the contact of your hands on your skin, on your body. It's a really great way to draw you out of your head, out of your thinking, and into your body's senses. Another great one is rub your arms. Give the outside of your arms a good rub, as if you're kind of doing a self-hug, but you're giving your arms a rub. Raise your oxytocin levels. These are all measurable effects to increase your self-intimacy, they call it, or that snuggle cuddle hormone called oxytocin. And one more, or I'll give you two more, is to take hold of your knees, wherever it feels comfortable, perhaps just above your knees. This can be really grounding to realize, oh, my legs are here. This is a great counteraction for anxiety. When we're anxious, all in our upper body, we need to find ways to go for a walk, or even simply to hold onto your knees or to ground to your feet. Yeah. And the final one is to place your hands in a prayer pose, just to center. Right. And as you've gone through these, you might have noticed that each make you feel a different way, but probably, and I'll ask you, Servet, what are some of the ways that you feel, words that you might use to describe how you feel now, just from those few seconds of placing your hands in the various areas, and you can relax your hands at this point. Do you feel any different from that? And I'll give you some of the words that my students and workshop participants use afterwards.
I do. I feel peaceful. I feel calmer. I feel a little more connected, definitely more connected to my body, especially when I put my hand on my heart, because it was like when I put my hand on my heart, I heard my mind say, oh, relax, just relax the heart. And I felt my heart relax. So yeah, that definitely works. I mean, those are all the words that came to my mind.
Some of the words people use is feeling more grounded, feeling more centered, perhaps feeling more present. And these are quick interventions. So you mentioned that my book is full of what I call mindful body moments. They're moments you can insert between one assignment and the next, or one project you're working on and the next, while sitting on your computer. They are moments you can use while waiting in the shopping line or in the traffic if you're standing at a traffic light. They're quick interventions, just holding, and you would choose even perhaps just the one that you like best. So if you like the one over your heart, go for that one.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, what it can do is just draw you out of your head and your habitual cycle of thinking and into your body, and that peacefulness, it's like a relaxation response that can begin. Not only helps us feel more relaxed,
mm-hmm.
it can also clear our brain and it's to think more clearly. So we might take that deep breath and suddenly go, oh, I'm being really hard on myself. I'm pushing myself really hard. Or this situation in front of me, maybe there's another way I can go about it. It's like new ideas and spring to mind just by helping our bodies find that. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, absolutely, it does. And that's the number one problem most people have is stress. And then stress causes other problems, and we'll talk about how neuroplasticity and all of that. But it really is difficult for people to de-stress, and then that's why they reach for a glass of wine or they reach for a pill or something, because it's hard in this day and age. But I think if we just take a moment, mindfulness in itself, just to breathe and to do one of these wonderful exercises that you have these moments, then you can stop and get off that treadmill and just say, you know what, I'm mindful, I'm present. And it takes that away, because usually what we're stressed about is silly. Anyway, you know what I mean? It's just, it's us getting carried away.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean,
and this is all, yes. Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead. This is all.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the connection to mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Many people might think mindfulness, meditation are generally practices that you use to achieve mindfulness, which is about living with greater presence, with greater clarity of mind, with a greater sense of ease, perhaps, or inner peace. All of these, people might think, well, I need to meditate to do that, or maybe I use my exercise of choice to help me feel more peaceful. And what the mindful body offers is saying, in the moment, when you haven't just finished your exercise routine, or when you're in the midst, or when you're not even near to your meditation practice, or if you are not a meditator as well, there are ways for you to contact the physical state and the mental state that are the outcome of meditation, at least to get a taste of it, that entry into being in the moment a bit more calmly, a bit more clearly. Mm-hmm. And you spoke about, it was actually Dr. Daniel Siegel's flipping your lids, where he uses where you represent your brain in the palm of your hand, and if your lower, more primitive portions of your brain were represented in the palm and in your thumb, those are the parts that like to fight, flight, or freeze. All those wonderful animalistic responses we all can do when we're so-called feeling under threat, when we're in an argument, when we're stuck in the traffic, when we're frustrated, when we're anxious, whatever those things are.
Right.
If we let that get the better of us, because of flipping our lid, it means that our brains are short-circuiting, and we are not able to access that wonderful prefrontal cortex, those wonderful mature areas that help us be our more intelligent version of ourselves, quite simply. Help us be more resourceful, help us be more rational, sensible, creative also, and also links to our ability to feel compassionate. So if you take your hand and you have your lower portions, your primitive portions of your brain in your palm and in the thumb, and you fold your thumb in, then you fold your 4 fingers over your thumb, as if you're holding the thumb in the center of your palm. That sense of I'm together now, I'm holding myself together, kind of represents that feeling physically when you're able to take those moments. A mindful body moment might be to place a hand somewhere on your body like we did at the start with self-touch. It might be others are like centering and grounding through placing your 2 feet on the ground or your 2 hips more squarely, more evenly on the feet. That sense of grounding, that sense of feeling in control, or simply closing your hands in over your thumb, actually wakes up our ability to think more clearly. And this idea of what meditation, one of the benefits is that we tend to live, without even noticing it, a little bit in that Dr. Siegel calls it the flipped lid state. A little bit in a fight-flight response, pretty much on a maybe low level constantly through the day. We're a little bit agitated, we're a little bit irritated.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally we come to be centered and grounded, and that's where practices like meditation or like an exercise routine help us.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time, if we were to be honest, we're slightly triggered by something, or slightly irritable, or slightly depressed. And when we can take these moments, center, ground, align ourselves, come to our senses in a way, that's the outcome of mindfulness. And we can get a taste of that. We can help ourselves make that gear shift from being not
especially with those
to being able
especially with those triggers. I think you talked about Debbie Ford's book about and she talked about how we're all reflections. Everybody's reflecting something in you.
Yes.
And it triggers people. And if you're not mindful, you can go off and running and be stressed out. And instead of just stopping and saying, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? And then not letting it trigger you into something. That's what and also there was a study too that you talked about that I found very interesting, and I think it was a Harvard researcher, Amy Cuddy, who said just in 2 minutes you can change how you feel. You know, you can boost testosterone, you can lower your cortisol just by simply standing in a high power body position. Right? I mean, that's fascinating.
Now you're looking at, fascinating. Now you're looking at one of my favorite areas to work at, particularly in the workplace. When I work in organizations, I love this one. It's all about how our personality, how we embody our personality. And not only that, how our physical body gives us really quick way to not change our personality. Like, for example, with Amy Cuddy's research, it's not going to make you a more confident person, less anxious permanently. But if you spend 2 minutes in the power pose, take your hands on your hips, breathe into your chest with your chin up high, stand up tall, kind of like that superwoman pose.
Right.
It is going to markedly increase your testosterone linked with confidence, decrease your cortisol linked with anxiety, and that might last you into the interview, into the presentation, into the confronting conversation that you have to have. And then after that, you will pretty much come back to your innate personality. And if I may go into an opposite personality, some people who are not so naturally confident, and those who are naturally confident may need to counteract it with a hand to the heart. Hand to the heart. If you place your hand to the heart, and I forget the name of this public speaking guru, one of these who runs these big workshops, and he is known to say, if you're speaking to someone and you want to convey sincerity, whether you mean it or not, place your hand over your heart. It represents a more caring, nurturing attitude. It represents sincerity. And truthfully, when you hold your hand over your heart, it reminds you of that, maybe a little bit more compassion towards yourself, maybe a little bit more compassion towards others, maybe just reminds you that you have a heart and what that might bring to your situation.
Right, exactly.
Well, I find this an opposite.
Yeah. No, you do. Yeah, no, and you talk about this in the book too. You talk about the head-heart dialogue. That, you know, not just conveying it to other people. That's a really good point, though. That is. I love that, you know, that if you want to be more sincere, even if you're not, you put your hand on your heart. But I also found it very helpful to put my hand on my heart to have the mind, the head and heart talk with yourself. You know? Yeah.
That's a beautiful piece in the emotions chapter 5 of the mindful body, where there are so many fun ways, I find, and playful ways to work with our emotions and the ups and the downs of our lives or the decisions we need to make. And one of them is to realize I see it as two different aspects of ourselves, and we can actually have them dialogue. So let's say you've got a big decision you need to make, and you're not sure how to make this decision. You might sit for a moment, and you might even want to write this down if you're that type. or speak it through with someone and go, well, my head is telling me all these rational things that this is going to be the outcome, or these are my fears, or these are practical steps I would need to take one way or the other. And then you contact your heart. And in truth, even though a lot of people, we're all afraid sometimes of what our hearts tell us, we tend to make decisions more based on what our hearts tell us than what our heads tell us, even if we want to believe the opposite. Mm-hmm. So this head-heart dialogue must help us take pause to go, well, what does this mean to me personally if I make this decision? How will it impact me? Is it worth it? All of these good questions that really touch into our felt, our feelings, and an authentic sense of self, perhaps a bit deeper than our thoughts about our situation. So I love this in, for example, decision-making, to have this head-heart dialogue.
Right.
Which can come very in handy at different times.
Yeah, exactly. I love it too. You know, we're halfway through the show just about, so I do want to tell everybody that I am on the line with Noa Belling, who's calling from Cape Town in South Africa, and she's written a book called The Mindful Body, and it's excellent. Now, how can people find you, or how could they find, I'm sure they can find your book everywhere books are sold, Amazon and everywhere else, but do you have a website, and are you out and about doing workshops, etc.?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
The best way to stay in touch with me is through my website, which is Noa Belling, that's NoaBelling.com. Mm-hmm. And I also update my Facebook page, which is Noa Belling, quite regularly, which is also where I, on both platforms, I will announce whatever events are going on. At the moment, really the focus is on launching the Mindful Body, mm-hmm. which has already launched in a couple of countries, and as time goes by, there will be workshops associated. I've done a number of talks, presentations, so those are all the kinds of ways that I offer and work in this area. Right. As well as running my own psychotherapy practice,
right.
both on Skype and
yeah, you do have your own psychotherapy practice too. That's true. Now, where do you live?
Yes,
Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in Cape Town.
Okay, so you actually live there.
Yes, I do, and. Yes, another place just to make mention is I have a wonderful publisher called Rockpool Publishing, and they're also a great resource both in announcing events or things to do with the Mindful Body, as well as being a wonderful publisher with lots of great offerings.
Right. Okay, good. And I'm going to say your website one more time for everybody out there, because it's noabelling.com, NoaBelling.com. And we're talking about her new book, The Mindful Body, right now. And I love it. I love the exercises. I like or moments, as you call them. But they're wonderful. They're very helpful.
Yes.
Now, I wanted to talk to you about, for all of these things we've been discussing so far, they're very helpful. But I want to talk to you about now healing, because that's what a lot of people, when they want to connect, because I truly do believe that and science has proved this as well now, that the brain is more plastic than we thought. And yes, we can forge new neuropaths and neurons that wire together, as they say, and you can change. You can not only change your mind, you can change your physiology too. Isn't that true? Do you agree?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And this is where it's really exciting, is the first step I would describe is getting out of our own way, because we create a lot of worry, and that creates a lot of cortisol and adrenaline, all that sort of stress hormones in our bodies. We create that in our heads with our tendencies to spend a little more time than is helpful to us in our thoughts about reality. So step number one is to come into our body. And in a sense then, if you think about it with a real simple example, if you cut yourself, mm-hmm. for most people, that cut is going to naturally, on its own, heal. The body is naturally moving towards its health. Mm-hmm. That's what it's drive is. And I very much believe that the more we can get out of our way, the more that our body will show us and guide us to what is needed. Almost that intuitive sense like Serena Williams.
Mm-hmm.
But even one further, for some of us who need a bit of help, there are also processes, along with the value, of course, of working with a therapist or someone to help you with really difficult circumstances. There are ways for you to get a taste. For example, the emotional part of our brains are highly receptive to change, to this neuroplasticity, to rewiring. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if we've got emotions that really get us down and that we can't seem to help ourselves fall into, our anxiety or our depressions or whatever it is that we're struggling with, probably for good reason because of things that may have happened in our lives, there are ways that we can look to the past and ask, well, can I feel into what this might link to in my history? And using imagination is a very powerful way to begin to say, well, what was needed then? And to spend the time, carve out the time to exercise some of this visualization, imagination process to be able to insert what was needed at those times and to be able to shift how we feel, because then we'll remember maybe something that happened to us when we were younger, maybe someone wasn't there for us when we needed them, and this might have happened quite regularly. Maybe we visualize that someone who is really supportive in our lives now appears in our past to shield us, protect us, take us forward in a different way, and then imagine how our lives might have turned out with that as our aid, with that influence. And we always track it. The body gives us a wonderful way to track how we're feeling, to follow, to be able to have a new reference point, to go, wow, I'm now breathing into my chest, or now I feel more grounded, or now I can really follow my body into my feelings and even acknowledge that I've been feeling this way for a long time. And that's where the body is a really helpful tool. And as we work through these processes, they can begin to shift us because we are responding to those influences that we have not resolved through our lives. And I want to make mention of one other piece. There's a wonderful field. I didn't actually mention it in this book. It will be in areas to come. There's a wonderful field called epigenetics, which is the frontier of science nowadays, of how, looking also at how many things, but psychology being one of them, can influence us all the way down to the way that our genes express. For example, let's take an autoimmune condition, might be triggered under stress, and we have certain symptoms. And when we really can work with our stress response, we can help those symptoms to alleviate, and for some to be alleviated to the point of going into remission, and for others, learning to live with it. That's a bigger question. Because also there's a notion with epigenetics that we may also inherit certain traits, that we may not always know why we feel certain ways. Mm-hmm. For some people, their anxiety or their depression, they can't quite pinpoint. Is it this? Is it that? And that doesn't matter. So long as we can begin to acknowledge, wow, I feel this way, and this is how it makes me hold my breath, and this is how it makes me tighten in my belly, and wow, if I ground through my feet and explore new ways of occupying my body or explore supportive imagery, I can feel different, even if I don't remember my story. So I want to add that also there are people who might not remember their story, and for you too, there is plenty. When you go into the level of body awareness, there's always something you can do. There's always a breath you can take. There's always a sense of being able to uplift your spirit, uplift in your posture, to be brave to face whatever it is that's in front of you. And that might make you reach out to the therapist or to some guide or some person in your life that you might not have been willing to help you, because, of course, we don't do our healing in a vacuum. It happens with the support from our insides as well as from the world around us.
That's right, exactly.
That was quite a journey I went on.
Yes. Well, and you say in your book that our bodies can remember. Our bodies remember, and they may even remember other, generations of old patterns and things that cross-generation healing, I think is what you called it. Right? I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that,
absolutely.
No, you talk about that, and I wanted you to explain that a little bit more. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. So one of the things that I offer, and I'll actually offer this visualization as a taste of a way to work with generations back, even if we don't know. Everyone has got something. If you look at generations back, people have moved countries. They've moved to live in different places. There's often trauma in the reason why people have left, or it is difficult to relocate, for example, from place to place. And events might have happened that are socio-political, whatever they're related to in generations gone by. You don't even need to know the detail. But here's a visualization, just to give you a sense of how to give yourself a sense of something different. If you place yourself in the front, imagine yourself in the front of a triangle. If you were the point of a triangle, it's your turn, it's your generation. Maybe you have children and you can place them eventually in their turn, but for now, it's your turn. This is your turn to make a mark. And imagine your parents behind you. And even if they couldn't be supportive of you in the way that you needed, or maybe they could, imagine their parents behind them. And for people who've got multiple parents, just bring everybody in and let everybody in a way place a supportive hand on each other's shoulders and place their parents behind them and place their parents behind them. In fact, generation upon generation, building a triangle from you as the point with your parents behind you, placing their hands on your shoulder. Maybe they could or couldn't support you because they weren't supported in the way they needed because of circumstances of their parents and their culture that they grew up in. So imagining that everyone's standing behind you, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, all supporting each other with hands to your shoulders, doing the work that they might not have been able to, but just sensing that behind you and how your body feels. To have this enormous triangle extending behind you, almost into infinity. I like to look at it going back to the furthest horizon and then bringing in like an ideal image of a mother figure. Perhaps for some it's like a divine mother or Mother Earth or some large enough mother figure to embrace all generations. And as you do so, just notice how your body might take that in. Notice your breath. Notice where in your body you might feel this.
Wow.
And then looking forward, into your life. And I like to bring a father figure into this too, because there's a slight different dynamic between the nurturing archetype of a mother figure and the perhaps a strong protective energy of a father figure also on the outside. And then stand forward into your day and consider, wow, this is my opportunity to make a difference. And through epigenetics, they can also say that we do our healing not only for ourselves and not only for what we pass on to future generations, but we can also be different and create change that ripples backwards in our experience of our past. Who knows if it actually touches those people who may have passed on. And for now, it certainly can bolster that sense of yourself that without knowing it, we can be so influenced by just think about it. If a parent is brought up in an environment that raises anxiety because of situations that were beyond people's control, how are they to offer you a sense of safety? So now we're building in the sense of safety. You're at the point, all these generations placing hands upon shoulders, great big mother figure coming in to embrace everybody from the horizon behind with arms that reach all the way to around you. Father figure on the outside, wherever you want to imagine him and or her for those who might be. It's not actually to do with gender. It's about a male or masculine energy, not about our particular roles in our actual families. So let's just say a father masculine energy on the outside. And allow ourselves to feel how our bodies feel different. So that's an example of rather looking at how it does influence. There are many scientific explanations to how past influences us, but to sense, I know for myself when I do this exercise, I just ran through it now as I was offering it, I feel so much more solid and grounded and stronger, almost like, wow, I didn't realize the responsibility or the opportunity and I somehow feel stronger from it.
I do too.
What was your sense? You maybe
I did. I do feel stronger. I did feel a rush of energy up and down my spine. It was almost surreal in a way. I was born in Pakistan and I ran away when I was 14 years old. Now I grew up in London and Montreal and California. So I'm a British citizen, a Canadian citizen, and an American citizen. I'm also a Pakistani because I was born there. So these are and I ran away at a very young age. So I kind of raised myself. I was 14 because I didn't want to do an arranged marriage thing. And anyway, long story short, I really don't know any of these generations of people that are my relatives. Yet when I did that exercise with you as you offered it, I was doing it and I could feel them. And then I got this rush of energy up and down my spine that made me sit up straight and feel good. And I was like, I could feel it. I did feel it. I did know. I felt that. And it was very powerful. And I'm holding back a little bit because I have a microphone in front of me, and so I can't really just let loose and woohoo. But I did, if I could have. Well, I just did it anyway. It was almost that woo. I felt that. Yeah. It was better than goosebumps. Anyway, that's interesting.
What I love, what my message is and why I chose to do an exercise as opposed to go into an explanation is there's plenty wonderful scientists out there, wonderful even psychiatrists, psychologists who can and are explaining how our history lives inside of us on a cellular level. There's a lot of wonderful information, and I feel like my message with this book and really what I'm all about is saying, let's get out of our heads for a moment. Let's know that you can have a powerful new experience, a powerful new way that you can feel in your body right now, no matter if you understand or don't understand what all of those complex genetic influences, cellular influences might be. It's almost like trying to understand it and figure it out can make us a bit stressed versus, in just a few minutes, we can feel quite powerful, and that's really the message over and over again through every chapter. It gives you a bit of information to go, oh, what's that? I'm interested. And then it goes, fine, let's turn it into a mindful body moment. Let's turn it into an experience so that you can feel empowered and a sense of, wow, there's something I can do that it is possible to feel different because I feel different right now.
Right.
Do you get that?
Absolutely. And if you don't feel different, you can't change. I mean, the body-mind connection to me, I also add soul, body-mind-soul connection is that it's how you think and how you feel that creates who you are. It's not, the mind and the body are absolutely molded together. And that how we change is to not just change how you think. That's why positive thinking in itself, you can make a million vision boards and nothing will change. You can, do a million affirmations that you're well and healthy but because it's not just how you think. It's your body, which is how you feel, connected together.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's, exactly. And then when you think and feel differently, you act differently, and then when you act differently, when you're thinking and feeling and your actions are coordinated and in sync, then change happens without any effort at all, right?
Absolutely. And our job is only to stay out of our way and to stay connected, to keep our worrisome thoughts as in a sense, to stay out of our way means to live more in our body, to do these practices almost like our bodies are like a dog with a bone. The bone are these mindful body moments. To say we need them. With meditation practice, it's the same. You asked to watch your breath, or even to say a mantra, and you have to keep coming back. Whenever our minds wander and go back into our usual habits of thinking, we come back to the present and come back to the present. And this idea of having something to hold on to, simply helps us live life a little bit clearer, helps us to be a bit more aware of have a clearer, more creative response to whatever life may be presenting us with. And for some who are comfortable with contacting their intuition, because I know that's something people feel like, well, where is it and what is that? It's just a sense of, wow, okay, in this quiet, in this presence, I have a sense that I would like to go here, or I have a thought that crosses my mind, and I choose, that's interesting, I think I'll follow that. That is intuition. It's just that being a little bit quieter in your mind so that you can hear the way that your mind is actually offering you up these very helpful thoughts or possible paths to take, and then we can choose to follow them and see where that leads us and keep following the signs along the way with this greater presence, with this greater mental clarity, with this greater creativity, and perhaps even joy and excitement and enthusiasm and compassion and love for each other that we can contact when we are not so caught up in our thinking.
Right. Oh, well said, Noa, because really, honestly, it all contributes to make you feel good, too. And then when we are in joy and in peace and in fun, actually, even, then things flow. And it's not about, well, I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to make that happen. It's more about, no, just relax and get out of your own way. You've said that several times on this show, and I'm a big believer in that, because really a lot of people's problems, even with their health or just anything really about not having manifested what you want, oftentimes it's because people are in their own way. They need to step aside and allow the body to speak. And that's not just about the body. It'll guide you to other things too. It'll guide you to your work, to whatever. Like you when you got out of your own way, you decided dance was a good way to move into the whole Naropa University and studying all of that and using it to help people and guide people. And that was you getting out of your own way, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's really about giving you that ability to touch into mindfulness and then not to cling to it, not to go, oh, now the outcome is I need to keep myself present. Actually, the outcome is to be able to focus more clearly on whatever it is that we want to do with our lives, that we want to focus on. We'll have more energy as well to be able to apply towards whether it's our healing or whether it's a passionate direction we want to move in. We'll have greater intelligence, literally, in the way that our brains think and function much more clearly. We have access to many more parts of the brain than when we are even subtly running a stress response. So that's, I guess, is one of the final words that I think we'll have time for. I know you. Yeah,
exactly. We have run out of time, and that's a great way to end it. And it's true. It's very much true. And really, in a way, this book helps you to love yourself more. And when you do, the mindful body, when when you do that, anything is possible in the outside world, because it has to happen inside of you first, And I think that the book really puts, I hope that makes sense, but the book really does help with that. I think it's called The Mindful Body, and you are Noa Belling. I loved having you on the show.
Thank you.
The thing about this is I didn't even touch on dreaming. I didn't touch on 9 million other questions that I have written down. So we're going to have you back again. The book just came out, I think, last month. I mean, just a month ago, not even. So it's just brand new. So we may have to have you back on again, Noa. So for those of you out there that have been listening, I thank you, and so does Noa. The name of the book is The Mindful Body, and her website is noabelling.com, NoaBelling.com. You're fabulous. I love you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all that you do, that you offer such a wonderful a wonderful, healing, beautiful, inspiring space to people. I really appreciate that.
Thank
as well.
you. Thank you. And you keep doing what you're doing, please. It's important. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank
will.
You. Appreciate it. Thank you for calling. Thank you. And enjoy Cape Town.
Absolute pleasure.
Okay. Good night. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. What a great show. She's wonderful. And her book, again, is called The Mindful Body. And she does give really great examples in there of how to understand what she's talking about, which is really important because she did say, there's enough scientists out there that can give you the mumbo jumbo on all of this. And it's true. Actually, what they're saying is true. But sometimes we just can't figure out what they're talking about and how to put that into action in our own life. And this book helps you do that because every chapter has a way for you to connect. And like I said, just the flip your lid thing, if you hold your thumb in the palm of your hand and you cover your thumb with your other 4 fingers, you do feel more in control. And suddenly you're not as likely to go off and shoot your mouth off like I was going to do this morning. It works. So, and there's that's just one of many examples. Anyway, the name of the book again is The Mindful Body. And the subtitle is Build Emotional Strength and Manage Stress with Body Mindfulness. And that's exactly what it is. And she's lovely. And that's our show for tonight. I will be back with a live show next week. And in the meantime, anything you need to know about me is on ServetHassan.com, ServetHassan.com. And you can even reach me there too. Love to hear from all of you. I don't always get back to you right away, I know, but I do answer everything. So please, if you have any comments or questions, I am at ServetHassan.com. So you can reach me there, and new blogs and new websites and all that stuff is coming. I know I keep saying that, but all this stuff does take time. And the podcast is going to be up running soon, and Clear Source Radio is now a part of iHeart, and so we have commercials and all kinds of other wonderful things coming up very soon. And in the meantime, my work is all about be you to the full, because that's what's truly beautiful, and that's what makes your life happen. And that's one of the reasons I have authors like Noa Belling, best-selling authors like Noa Belling on, because that's the message there too. When you love yourself, and not in an egotistical way, of course, but when you do love yourself and you appreciate who you are and that connection to something bigger than who you are, everything's possible. So it's about being your authentic self. And she talked about this a lot today, is getting out of your own way. Because when you are being your authentic, true self, you don't get in your own way. You listen to your intuition and you listen to your inner guidance, and you're having fun and you're more in joy and bliss and peace. Maybe not every minute of every day, but you are more in that place. And then guess what? Life freaking flows beautifully, and things come out of nowhere, and all these magical things start happening, and the miracles start occurring, and it's not anything crazy. It's just naturally part of life, because you're being the real you. And when you're being the real you, things do just happen beautifully. Miracles occur naturally. That's what happens. So tune in again next week with a live show. I appreciate you all. Be you to the full. That's what's truly beautiful. I love you all. Thank you for listening. And we will be back next week. Take care. Bye.